Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Press Play Lifestyle Inspired podcast, where we do interviews with inspirational people like our new friend Richard. Hi, Richard.
Hi, Jackie. Good to be with you.
It's nice to be with you as well. On topics that we're hoping will help our listeners, that's all of you guys, find the resources, tools, and support you need to be your best inspired selves. So I'm so excited I get to meet you. You're in the Midwest like I am. I get a lot more folks from either the California area, West Coast, or a lot of folks from Nashville and Pennsylvania lately. So it's nice to see someone close to home.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate being with you.
That's nice to see you. So you have a lot of music out, Richard. There's you've been a busy fella. And one of the things that your manager said a lot about you, which I just thought was great because it kept coming up, is the authentic country, right? That's traditional country music. Is there a reason that gets like such emphasis when people talk about the kind of music that you play?
Well, I grew up in a country music household, and by that I mean my dad was an incredible singer, entertainer in around the Dayton, Cincinnati area. So every morning I would get up, he'd be drinking his coffee there in the kitchen table, and on the counter would be that old round top radio, and I can still hear those traditional country songs of that era. Back then would be people like Mel Tillis and Mel Street and Buck Owens and Merle Haggard and George Jones and on and on and on. And at a young age, I just absolutely loved that sound and the stories and the fact that it was so emotional and you could capture that emotion in that music. And I tell this story often, but it's something that is so vivid in my memory. At the ripe old age of 8, I got to go hear my dad perform for the very first time. And he was playing in Dayton, Ohio with this guy who I watch on Saturday nights on television. He was playing with a guy named Porter Wagner. And here I am thinking, my goodness, my dad must be really somebody because I'm watching him perform with this guy that I watch on television every Saturday night. So in the audience with my mother, and we're enjoying Dad's portion of the show. And unbeknownst to me, my dad looked down at my mother and said, "Hey, send Richard up here on the stage." Now, here I am, 8 years old. I get up and I jump up on the stage with him, and I did an old Buck Owens song. And you might imagine that an 8-year-old kid went over pretty well playing with his dad at this show.
I bet.
So I was bit pretty early by the traditional country music bug, you might say.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I lived in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee for a long time, which is not well known to people except for those of you who've won Josie Awards like yourself. But it's this little town near Gatlinburg and Dollywood. And so we grew up listening to like Reba McEntire, Garth Brooks, which is maybe one more generation past you, but it was before it became kind of like honky tonk country or country pop, right? Still a little bit of that traditional sound. So it's always fun to talk to someone who like grew up, like it sounds like you grew up always playing real traditional music and with your dad no less, which is super cool.
Absolutely. Well, Garth Brooks originally, I mean, his early music was very traditional. And then, like everything happens for, to stay, as far as
Relevant.
mainstream, they take him a different direction. But, today's world, if you were a country music fan in the 1970s and 80s and 90s, you're wondering what happened to country music, because it's nothing like that at this point in time.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying anything negative. I'm just saying those folks are looking for that music out there.
Yeah.
And so I've been very fortunate to be able to provide that new music with that traditional flavor, I guess you might say.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I've loved a lot of what I've heard so far. It's just, again, it sounds like the music I grew up listening to, and it's beautiful. So another thing that I thought was just wonderful. I love that people don't always realize that singers, songwriters are people too. like they don't just run around singing all the time and like make all the money that way and do everything. So I read that you are a designer of barns, a designer and builder of barns. So how did all that kind of come about?
Well, I keep going back to my dad. I grew up on an old farm, and if you got a farm, you always got outbuildings and barns and fences and everything. And so, as a necessity, I was helping my dad at a very young age, keeping everything maintained and farm work, and I learned a lot from him. And as we get a little older, and I started my own business, I was able to do my own buildings, new barns and new homes, barn restorations. I currently have a farm that we live on now, and there's a lot of work involved there. So I'm thankful that I grew up in a household that I could learn all those awesome things that ultimately I needed in life. As I got older.
Yeah. So what kind of, do you guys have a functioning farm still, Richard?
We do. We raise hay. I sell an awful lot of horse hay here.
Hmm.
Now we got some donkeys and horses ourselves here on the farm. Um, it's a labor of love. If you love the country way of life, which we do, it really gives me inspiration for my music a lot of times too. I'll see things that I sometimes take for granted, and then I like, boy, I'm really lucky. Look what I just witnessed right now. This is really cool. I write
Yeah.
songs about different things.
Yeah, I think that one of the things I'd heard were one of the nice things about your music is it really it's just like musical lyrics of your life. Like mending fences is about actually being out there and mending some fences, or you sing about what you know about. Is that just something they say to like promote you, or do you think that's really authentically a good description of what you do?
Well, it's really me. I'm lucky in the sense that I can write what I see, but I like writing songs to where I think the biggest compliment I've ever been told was, Richard, I heard this new song, and it's almost as if you wrote that song for me. And when you write that and you make that connection with your listener and those fans out there, I don't know that there's a bigger compliment that can be paid to you, because you just connected with what you were trying to sing with that person's emotion. So I write from the heart.
Yeah, lovely. So I know that a lot of us are kind of stuck indoors in the current situation, but provided the world goes back to some semblance of normal, do you have any plans to do some live performances in the next, couple months or so?
Yeah, our schedule is really full, and we've lost all our March dates, all our April dates, our May dates. We're hoping that we can at least start performing again in June, because our summer is really full,
Yeah.
concerts and festivals and fairs all over the country. As we speak, we're keeping our fingers crossed that we can get out there. We play in Texas and Tennessee and Florida and Ohio. I mean, all over the place. We're very fortunate that we can spread our music around and meet wonderful folks around the country. But if we can kind of keep our fingers crossed when we get out and see somebody this summer and kind of reconnect. Yeah.
Yeah, fingers crossed for sure. So who do you all travel with when you go? Does your wife come with you and your band members? Like what's it
Yeah.
look like traveling with Richard?
Well, I made a deal with my wife many years ago. I said, listen, we're starting to play a lot around the country and this and that. And I said, listen, if you don't go, I'm not going to go. So so she is with me wherever we go. But I usually travel with a five-piece band and myself, so six of us. And the guys that I work with here are my local guys that I've been performing with for many, many years. Most of the time they can do the dates that we have, but there's situations where I got to go to Texas or Missouri, and so I've been fortunate that I know a lot of great musicians around the country who can help me out if all my guys can't go, or only a portion of them can. So
Yeah.
I always give them, my guys here at home, first dibs on whatever comes my way. But the old thing is, if you got a show to do, you go do it and just make it work.
Yeah, yeah. That's lovely that your wife and you have decided to travel together. You know, that keeps things less complicated. But who takes care of the hay farm when y'all are gone?
Well, so I've been pretty lucky. My brother up at this point has been doing a lot for me, taking care of things for me while we're gone. It's not so bad in the winter months. My neighbor or my brother will help feed the animals or so forth. But if you're gone on a 5 or 6 week run, you tend to think, man, what's going on back home? You get kind of worried.
Yeah.
All those responsibilities, even though you're 1,500 miles away, they're still there, your responsibilities. So I'm lucky that I got some folks there to help me out.
Yeah, it sounds like being a country music singer is a family affair. You got all kinds of folks involved to make it work, huh?
I think so. If you go through life and you love what you do and you make those connections with people, ultimately you can make arrangements for someone to take care of you. I would like to be able to think that I could help my friends too if they needed some help. So we try to work everything out.
Yeah, that's lovely. So, I asked this of all the people I've been interviewing that are singers lately, and I know it's like asking you if who's your favorite child, but do you have a favorite song right now that's either yours or someone that you really like to listen to that's kind of a favorite for this season in your life right now?
Well, actually, my favorite song that we recorded here recently is pretty sentimental in the fact that it's a new song that's been played an awful lot around the country and around the world. It's called "Back in 1953." And it makes reference to an old guitar that my dad had given me when I was just a kid. And I'll just be quick about it. But when I was 19 years old, my dad had given me this old Gibson guitar, and it hadn't got played in years and years and years, and it needed some help and some repair work done. And I met this gentleman here recently, a couple years ago, and I felt good about talking to him. He assured me that he could restore my guitar to where he would make it as good as possible. He said, "I'll treat it like it's my own," and I felt good about him. So about 3 weeks went by, and he called me. He said, "Richard, I've got your guitar um, back together again. I think you're going to like this." So I hadn't played the guitar since I was 19, and this array of emotion came over me like I can't explain. And I wrote the song back in 1953, and it makes reference of my dad giving me the guitar and his influence on me, and it makes reference as to where that guitar will go to ultimately when I'm done, whether it be my nephew or his son. But the point is, it's a reference to the song and to keeping the traditional country music alive and well out there through that old guitar.
Yeah. So did he do a good job restoring it? That's what I want to know.
Oh, he did.
Oh, good.
You could never have asked for anything any better. It's just like the day my dad gave it to me. It's
Oh,
phenomenal. Plays so good, and it's one of those things that's it has a lot of monetary value to it, but it ain't. I wouldn't take $1 million for it because that's my connection with my dad, and it was really one of the very first guitars that had a pickup that was actually built into it where you can electrify it, and it had one of the very first years that the neck was cut away to where you can play high up on your neck. They called it the cutaway. And so I've had a lot of folks try to purchase it over the years. I said, no selling. The next generation is going to get this one.
yeah, that's beautiful. You can't sell those kinds of memories, right? That's just like something extra special.
Absolutely.
So that's your favorite song right now. And so you've referenced some of the people who influenced you, like Conway Twitty, George Strait. Um, do you have like a real favorite sentimental old country song that you really like that some other artist sang?
Well, I tell you, I grew up listening to those traditional artists, and as I got a little older and I was playing music on my own, I had the opportunity to meet a guy who became my hero. Was Keith Whitley, and I had done a show with him, and I was actually scheduled to do a show with him 10 days prior to him passing. We were supposed to be on a show 10 days later. So I had a real emotion, having been met with him and loving his music. anything that Keith Whitley sings, I have this heartfelt emotion and connection with his music. You know, because I got to meet him, and he's an Eastern Kentucky boy, which all my family is. My dad's from way down in the hills of Kentucky. And he was just real. He was genuine. His music was, you know, not overproduced, not overly complicated, but actually connected with you know, real life situations. And to this day I love his music.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, where can people find your music so that they can be ready for your next live show?
Well, best place to go is richardlynchband.com.
Hmm.
And you'll find us there on all the social media sites, all the different things around the country. We have a lot of up and coming dates this summer, and if everything holds true, we can hopefully cross paths with maybe some of your listeners out there. But richardlynchband.com would be the best place to find us.
Yeah, yeah, you guys have tons of information out there, press kit, all kinds of where you're going to be. Before we go, could you tell us just a little bit about the Love Tattoo Foundation?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. I am a huge supporter and proponent of anybody who has served our country. We love the fact that we get to do things to help our men and women of the military. And we started the Love Tattoo Foundation just for that purpose only, to raise money and make awareness of a place in Michigan called the Whirlwind Lodge. It's a 1,200-acre facility with a 60-acre lake, and any and all veterans from World War II to today is welcome there. And we'll do a annual concert to raise money for the facility and to make awareness of the facility. Now, it's located in Michigan, but any veteran around the country is welcome there. And it's designed for these veterans to have a little recreation and have them, you know, kind of get their mind off of things. I understand that too many veterans these days commit suicide, and I find that completely unacceptable. So if in my small way, if I can do something to help somebody in the military, I want to give back what I can.
Well, I love that. We'll make sure when we promote your podcast to have the Love Tattoo Foundation as the nonprofit for the Facebook page, if that's all right with you.
Thank you. I appreciate hearing that.
So is there anything else, Richard, you'd like to share with the audience before we wrap it up today?
Well, just look for my music, Richard Lynch Band. And I say Richard Lynch Band because there's a scary actor out there named Richard Lynch. So go to richardlynchband.com.
Good to know. Good to know. Now I got to go look up the other guy, right?
Yeah, and you'll find our music out there. If you love real traditional country music, we're going to do our best to keep it alive and well out there, and hopefully the next generation can pass it along.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Richard. I hope you and your lovely wife have a wonderful day, and I look forward to seeing you out there in concert soon.
Well, thank you for having me, and I know we'll cross paths somewhere.
Absolutely. Have a great day, sir.
Bye-bye.
Bye.